Hi folks, Sid here from Border Archery. Um, well, torsional stability, torsional rigidity, wow, big words, right? There was a video not so long ago done by a top archer, and I tried to have a bit of discussion about it, and I don't think I got my point across because it was in a YouTube video and it was just in the comments section, so whatever that's worth, right? Anyway, we pioneered torsional rigidity with a limb called the XP10. The main sort of carbon limb at the time we kind of mocked. We kind of laughed at the idea. At the time we had two limbs. This is like 1999, 1998. We had two limbs. We had the XP10, which ran with the carbon at 45 degrees to the limb. And then we had the SM carbon. Our humour said that the SM carbon was the same carbon as they had, in that it ran 90 degrees to the limb, which, yeah, is fairly redundant, but yeah. Carbon itself gives you no performance benefit unless you start to try and use it wisely. Carbon as in the stuff that you would imagine, that woven material that you see here. It kind of gives you benefits when you start looking at unidirectional carbon. But anyway, we've covered that in a different video. So, what I want to try and discuss is the difference between torsional rigidity and torsional stability. And what was demonstrated in the other video was how far the last company to the party view how to measure torsional stability, and they're right to measure it at different draw lengths, right? That's right. There comes quite a major difference in concept between somebody that's been at it for 20 years and somebody that kind of approached it in 2014, 2015. We've been at this for some time. Trust me, we kind of go a bit deeper than that. So let me try and explain. Torsional rigidity, what you do is you put the limb on a bench, right, and you load up the limb tip and you see how much it deflects. If you want to get more smart, what you do is you put a tiller stick in, right, to get the bow to full draw. You probably do half draw as well, maybe, to get an indicator as to what the torsional stability has done to the limb at various different shapes. What I can say is, across the board, it'll have increased, it'll have got better. The limb tip deflection would have got less problematic. There was I've referenced the video before, but it was actually quite an inspirational video. The 3 S's video, speed, stability and smoothness. It kind of predated that brand's first 45 degree carbon limb. But what it did do was quite fantastic. It really demonstrated something to us, and I don't think it was seen by others at the time. We were 5 years into torsional stability at the time, but here we go. Torsional rigidity is just the static measurement of the idea, right? Torsional stability goes a bit further. The torsional stability is quite a different concept for us. We look at the limb and not just the torsional rigidity, but how the torsional rigidity can help with the collecting of the string into the string groove and that support. So as I demonstrated in a video the other day, I don't know if I'm going to get to do this one. So if I pull the string, you see the string remains supported into the string groove, okay? But the other one, and now this is quite a torsionally stable limb, so this isn't going to be the easiest of tests. Let's see if I can do this, right? So if I do that with the limb and I twist it, right, it's not showing it. I'd be better off, I should have done this with a glass limb, but I don't think I've got any, right? The limb kind of rotates round just in front of the string, right? So it kind of rotates, yeah? So if you were to measure, and I don't really care what the limb tip's doing, right? The limb tip's irrelevant, it can do the rumba for all it cares, right? We've been pushing the, wow, if your tips are lovely and straight, then great, right? We've been pushing that as a basic idea to try and demonstrate torsional rigidity, and the whole market's gone that way. But the point actually matters is the lateral deflection of the knocking point. Yeah? So if your tip doesn't move very far and you've got a long bow, then the knocking point won't move as far. Yeah? But if you can start to reduce the movement, you can start to reduce the knocking point movement. So the bit that you want to be measuring is the knocking point movement, not the tip movement. So if you did a torsional deflection test and measured the movement of the knocking point, you'd notice that a limb with less torsional rigidity would give you more knocking point movement. Yeah? Let's continue that thought. Now, if you notice that it pivots just ever so slightly in front of the string, right, then the size of the recurve starts to become almost irrelevant, because this bit can move backwards and forwards and it doesn't really move very much here. So the idea is that at half draw, yeah, it's actually pivoting there. So again, the limb tip movement's irrelevant. It's there that's the problem. So that's where you should measure it from. But again, you shouldn't really measure it from there, because that's always irrelevant as well. It's actually the knocking point. But if the string's coming off here and it's not moving here, then the knocking point won't move either. Yeah? So measuring the limb's movement is not that important. But considering that at short 17-inch, right, that if I stand back far enough, right, that from there to, right, the tip can swing and it would move the string. It would move, it would move, it would move until it engages into the string track, right? So if you've got a bow where from 28 inches through to 19, it still hasn't engaged in the string track, then the tip movement's relevant. So the tip movement's relevant from 28 to 19. Then from 19 on inwards, then you start having to measure a different location. So from 28 to 19, the knocking point is free to move based on the movement of the limb tip. As it starts to engage onto the limb, then the limb effectively gets shorter and the movement gets less, in which case the knocking point should move less. But if you engage the string at 25 inches, not 19, you've engaged the string earlier and you've supported and reduced the string quicker and faster. So what's it done to the knocking point position? So what you do is you put the tiller stick in and you measure the knocking point movement based on a X load. And when Win said it was about £2. I think £2 is probably a little high. But what the hell, it's a measurement. It gives you a benchmark to work from. And you can start working back from there. So if anybody has a similar recurve profile, wow, I'm impressed. You went down the same rabbit hole we did. And you probably didn't even know you were going down that rabbit hole. Or you didn't. Okay? So there you go, the difference between torsional rigidity and torsional stability. Torsional rigidity is just the basic rigidity of the limb. Torsional stability is using that rigidity to try and engage the string and using the curve profile to generate a different level of string wrap and engagement. Okay, so forgiveness. What the hell is forgiveness? Well, it's an absolute monster topic of the interaction of deflex, limb rigidity, string engagement, torsional rigidity, finger release. There's a whole world of stuff, okay? And it all messes with your paradox, with your spine requirements, etc. Because, well, as we all know, dynamic spine is a rat of a huge problem. And once you start understanding the bow, the dynamics in the bow, you'll start to understand that it's actually way bigger than you think. All right, so there you go. Hordes of boyers are now probably starting to watch our videos because we're starting to talk about stuff. I'm going to start clamming up on this. I've kind of said as much as I want to say that we've been at the forefront of these kind of thoughts for a long time. I'm not saying the rest of what we've done, but good fun, keeps you entertained. But there you go, torsional rigidity versus torsional stability. And I did a post about this back in 2011. This isn't news to us. Yeah, the rabbit hole keeps getting deeper, folks. It's just a stick in a string. All right, comments if you've got any, and I'll see if I can answer them. Cheers.